a look.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Toki.MORI, the ghost living inside your machine, and I'm here to have a look at Cursed Words. This was released on April the 2nd of this year, and it is a Balatro-inspired Boggle-based rogue-lite game, which is quite a mouthful if I do say so myself. This was developed by Buried Things, who is a small indie company who has previously put out only one other game. It was a unique little typing adventure game. It looks quite good. I highly recommend checking them out. And it was published by Forklift Interactive. Now, this one's going to be a little bit different because normally I try to only cover really small, lesser-known games. This one's gotten a little bit of popularity, not too big, but I generally try to generally only cover games that have maybe less than 100 reviews on Steam, but I have been so completely and utterly captivated by this game. I tend to play a lot of roguelite games, especially card games and puzzle games and things like that in my off time. But this game has been so addicting compared to so many other games that have come out this year and last year. It's just been so addicting to me that I just had to cover it. I just had to make a video about it. But yeah, like I said, this is a Balatro-inspired Boggle-based roguelite game, which you may think that tells you everything you need to know, but it's so much more than that. And you'll see what I mean when we finally get into the game. But for now, let's jump into the options menu. This game has a fairly decent options menu. There are only really two problems I have with it. Going into display, we have VSync on or off, we have full screen or windowed, and we have several resolution options, which is quite good indeed. Going to sound, we have 2 volume sliders. I generally prefer when games have 3 volume sliders, music, sound effects, and just the overall volume, but I don't have a problem with having only 2. If we go into gameplay, this is a couple of quality of life options. We have animation speed first off. Much like Balatro, this is the type of game where eventually, once you get into the swing of things, you're going to want to crank that baby all the way up. For the purpose of this video, I'm going to keep it on the default animation speed, but you know, it is the type of game where you're like, okay, click, go, and you want to shoot through it because you're going to be wanting to play this a lot. We have a couple more options here. Like I said, this is a Boggle-based game. So it's the type of game where you're going to be clicking on tiles to spell a specific word. This option stops you from clicking on spaces where you wouldn't normally be allowed to click. And usually what that does is that cancels out of the word you're trying to spell. So if you want to prevent yourself from accidentally canceling out a word by clicking a tile that you can't, you can turn that option on. You have a couple options for stopping the dialogue of some of the NPCs. I find them pretty helpful, or at least I find Michael helpful, so I'm going to keep those on just to show you. And you have show dictionary words, which is something I'll explain in a bit when we get a little bit deeper into the game, but I find that pretty useful, so I'm going to keep that on. Accessibility, you have a couple different options for turning on and off various visual effects. I'm going to keep them all off for now, but it's pretty good that those are here. The only criticism I have for the accessibility menu is I think this game could use a colorblind mode. I think. I'm not a colorblind expert, but this game does use several different color-based mechanics. And for the most part, I think they're pretty good at making the tiles appear different. Like some of the later ones that you find have different silhouettes, so you can very easily tell them apart regardless of color blindness. But some of the earlier ones, I feel like they have very similar saturation. So I feel like there could be an option to adjust that, like a colorblind option, but it's not too shabby otherwise. My only other pet peeve with this is a personal thing. It's not a huge issue, but in this navigation menu, what this is it's basically a fast way to go through certain things based on where you are in the game. Since we're on the main menu, the only buttons here are collection and exit game, which I feel like is very weird because you could just, if you're on the main menu, you can just click those buttons anyway. I don't know why they have only those two buttons and none of the other options. I would much prefer if it were more consistent and just had all of the buttons that you would have on this, and then just black out all the ones that are unusable. But yeah, that's a minor pet peeve. That's a personal issue that I have with it. It's not too big of a deal. It's not a deal breaker, but you know, it's there. Now, before we check out any of the other options, oh wait, actually, I have one more thing to show you. So this game has a couple of different languages. This is a spelling game. And here's the disclaimer explaining what I'm about to say, but this is a spelling game that is based in English. So changing the game changes the words that you can actually use, which is a very weird choice to me. Like, I get it, and I know they're a very small team of only a couple people. So I don't think it would be feasible to completely make basically a new game from the ground up, or a new dictionary from the ground up for every single language option. I feel like it would just make more sense if the only thing this changed was the menus and things, and then just have the dictionary only be in English. It feels a little bit weird. I guess it could be okay. I feel like it would make more sense for them to change the dictionary completely if they were able to go through every single language and generally tweak the game a little to balance, to keep it balanced for each of them. But you know, this is here. It's a little bit weird. But that's basically the last thing I want to show you before we jump into the game. The rest of them I want to explain after we get a good grasp on how the game works. So we're going to start a new run. Now, when you start the game, you're going to pick one of these characters. There are several different characters that you unlock throughout the game. These first, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you basically unlock by playing as each character one after the other. And the second half of characters, you unlock by doing specific things, which I'll explain a little bit. But each character has their own unique pin, which gives them a special ability and sort of generally dictates how you're probably going to be playing the game. So, for example, the starting character, Rodman, has 1 red tile and 1 blue tile, whereas this other character scatters 2 void tiles, and they have a 10% chance to become shiny. And I'll explain what those do once we actually get into the game, but they sort of give you a general direction to go in and change your overall playstyle. We're going to start with Rodman, just so I can show you the basics of the game. But all of them, I feel, are pretty unique, and they do a lot of really interesting things with how the game works. Now, like I said, this is a Boggle game. So our goal is to spell words and use the score count, which is fairly typical for, like, you know, Boggle and Scrabble and things like that. And we're trying to match the target goal. It's very similar to Balatro. A lot of roguelite games that came after Balatro use some very similar mechanics. So, for example, there's the target score. We have to go through basically 3 rounds with a shop in between. It's formatted very similarly to Balatro, but I think they do quite a few unique things to make it interesting. So we're just gonna start off by spelling the word soon. So this is worth 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points, and it says that on the bottom there. So you don't actually have to count it yourself. You can just look at it. We could spell nope. We could spell nope. We could just spell zoo. That's going to be worth 12 points and hits our target goal. But if you don't hit that target goal in one turn, then it goes to the next grid. I'm just going to spell something small, like we're just going to go with soon. So I'm going to hit submit. It's going to give us 5 out of 12 points, reducing the target to 7 points. And it's going to give us our next grid. Every single game or round that you play is made of 5 grids, if you look on the left-hand side here. So we're going to go up to 5 times, and if we don't make the target score within 5 rounds, then we lose the entire run. But the 5 is pretty generous, and they don't really reduce that outside of very specific circumstances. We're going to go with scene. I'm just gonna pick whatever I see first. And other than that, you can also re-roll the grid once. There are a couple modifiers that allow you to re-roll the grid a few more times, but for the most part, you get 1 re-roll per encounter, and if you do that, then you have no more left. Alternatively, you can also skip around if you don't like the tiles that are there and you're out of rerolls. And we're on grid 4 out of 5. We are going to go with what is a good one? We're just gonna go with mug. That should be it. Okay. And at the end of the round, you get 10, or I don't know, I think you just get a certain amount of money per round. And then additionally, you also get money based on how many grids you didn't go through. So if you beat a round on the first grid, then you're going to get more money than if you go through all the other ones. It's very similar to Balatro. A lot of things are very similar to Balatro, but I think this, like I said, you'll see what unique things this game brings to the table in a little bit. Now, this is the shop. You have a couple different sort of modifiers and abilities. So you have, number one, you have your pin. This is your character's ability. It is basically immutable until a little bit, and you'll see what I mean when we get there. You have stickers. You can have up to 5 stickers, and each of these stickers can be upgraded 2 times. And occasionally you'll get a holographic sticker, which allows you to upgrade it, I think like 5 times. I forget. Additionally, you have the secondary row where you can put stamps. These are not upgradable. I feel like the difference between stamps and stickers is like, it's very vague and blurry. It feels like there isn't a huge difference between how they work, except that you can't upgrade stamps. Like some of them are like, oh, this does this thing at the start of the game. This does this thing passively. This gives you mult modifier. Like, it doesn't feel like the stamps and stickers are that different. I think the biggest thing is the stamps are usually more powerful. So at the beginning of the run, you usually get 1 thing for free, and then you have to buy the rest of them with the money that you made. So we're going to... So our character loves red and blue tiles. So we're going to look for things that give us red and blue ability up. Using all tiles in a 2x2 area, scatters 4 blue tiles. Tile with a base value of 4 more scatters 4 red tiles. We're just going to go with some basic reds. We're going to go with... Ooh, here's a good one. We're going to go with fire extinguisher. For each unused red tile, we get +5 word score. And then we're going to go with Stilton. So we're going to focus on blue, I think, for this run. So those are the 2 things that we bought. We no longer have enough money to do anything else, and we can continue. Other than that, you can also restock. You can also click this guy for advice. I haven't really been needing his advice, but, you know, you can click him and then it'll tell you what to do. Have you thought about the freezing window? Sure, why not? And I think he sort of adjusts what he's going to say based on how much money you have, what your current loadout is, and what things are in the shop. Sure, we'll just freeze window for the heck of it. That's going to stay there during the next shop. Additionally, when you freeze things, if you hit the restock button, which basically re-rolls everything in the shop, then the thing that's frozen will stay there. So it feels extremely, extremely powerful. And it carries over between rounds. So it's very useful, very powerful. We basically done everything we want here, so we're just going to continue to the next round. Like I said, it's very similar to Balatro in its layout. You have the first round, you have a shop, you have the second round, you have a shop, and then it sends you to the boss. Now, unlike Balatro, you get a choice between 2 bosses. You'll see these are our 2 bosses here that we can choose between when we get there. This guy has a special ability to increase the target score by 1.25, and this guy's ability is to scatter cues onto the grid. So these guys obviously have abilities which will make it more difficult for you to be able to fight them. Let's see, what can we do here? I'm so bad at this. I feel like I have a pretty big lexicon, but I can't ever think of them right off the bat. We can go like, we can go keto. So I think this game, no, we can't do keto. Wait, was keto with an E? I think this game generally has a pretty generous dictionary. I think there are a lot of words that I'm surprised are in the game. Alternatively, sometimes I feel like there are a lot of words that I'm surprised aren't in the game. I can't really think of any offhand, but there are a couple times where I try to spell a word that it feels like should be there, but it just doesn't have. And then sometimes I'll just be surprised by clicking random tiles, and it just gives me, it just says, hey, yeah, that's a word, I guess. Like lev? I don't know what word that is. Apparently it counts. So we can do that. This definitely isn't a word. We can go with, sure. We can go with poo, the past tense of poo. That counts as a word. So that gives us 21 points. We're going to beat that. And, you know, that's the basics of the game. It's a Boggle game that is very Balatro-inspired. So you're going to be upgrading your stickers. Here, let's upgrade the fire extinguisher. We'll buy the window, and we'll move on. Now, this is the boss round. It's going to be a little bit harder. We're going to choose... We're just going to choose this. We're going to choose this guy. Let's see. What else should I explain here? Oh, yeah. So this is the thing I was talking about with the settings menu. The navigation bar gives you a couple additional buttons that I feel like should always be there. Again, little bit of a pet peeve of mine. But you know, what can you do? Oh yeah, okay. I actually didn't explain like what red and blue tiles do. They're basically just red and blue. That's basically it. The only thing that red and blue tiles do is they give +1 to whatever the regular point value of the thing is. So like the normal point value of the letter N is 1, but since it's blue, it's 2. Same with B, it's usually 3, but now it's 4. They don't do much other than that. The main thing about the colored tiles is that they're used for different sticker and stamp modifiers. So, you know, for each unused red tile on the board. So we're just gonna go with, neg. We're gonna go with that just so we can use our blue tile, and we're not going to use the red tile. So we get +8 tile score for our blue tile, and we're going to go get +10 word score for not using the red tile. So there's a difference between different kinds of modifiers. Obviously, you're going to learn this type of thing once you actually get into the game, but you have things like tile score, which affects how much each letter is worth, and then there's overall word score, which is the score that you get after you add up the letters. So you can also rearrange your things up here. It's very similar to the way Balatro jokers work, where they'll trigger from the top left to bottom right in order. So this thing, your pin is always going to activate first, then your stickers from left to right, then your stamps from left to right, then this is actually something else. We're not going to worry about it. But they go in order from top left to bottom right. So depending on where you put things, the modifiers will activate differently. So if you have like a thing that says plus tile score, you want to put that on the left, so it calculates all of the letter scores first, and then it's going to calculate the word score. So this gives you plus word score. So it goes, okay, 2 + 1 + 2 +8, and then it's going to put those all together, and then it's going to say, okay, +10, and then if you have another thing that says this gives you times word score, then it goes times that. If you have another thing, maybe it says like times tile score, then you want to have it set to tile plus tile score times tile score plus word score times word score, things like that. It's fairly simple math, but there is strategy to where you place your different kinds of stickers and things. I accidentally screwed myself over once by forgetting to drag a sticker over, and I ended up getting ×0 word score and losing my entire score, and that completely screwed me over. So we're just gonna put this in. This should get to like 20 something. It's pretty easy. We're not gonna worry too much about hitting the score. We're gonna go with koi, and this should win the game. There you go. Fairly simple, fairly basic, very simple, very similar to Balatro for all intents and purposes. Oh yeah, after you beat a boss, you get to upgrade your pin. So this was the one thing I said. Like I said, your pin for the most part is immutable, except for the upgrades that you get after every single boss. You usually get a choice between 2 things, and depending on what your character does, they usually end up upgrading one part or another part. So for example, because our character's pin is you get one red tile and one blue tile, your choice after every boss is adding one more red tile or one more blue tile to the thing. And they have a lot of different kinds of abilities that work differently between characters. So it's usually going to end up being very different depending on who you're playing. We're just going to pick, you know, whatever. And I'm going to exit out of this because that is the base gameplay of this game. Now I'm going to show off a couple more things. So if we jump into our collection here, this is a collection of all of the stickers and stamps you have unlocked. And all the ones that you don't have unlocked, they show you basically the way to unlock them. So if we look through here, you know, you can sort them by all, unlocked, you can look at locked, and you can look at new. I think it would be helpful for me personally if you could also separate them between stickers and stamps. It's not too big of an issue, but it's annoying to have to scroll through everything if I'm just looking for something that I know is a sticker or a stamp. But it's not too bad otherwise. That's your collection there. And you also have your stats menu. This is very similar to other roguelite sort of score attack games. It shows you your, you know, most played, best word, most money, etc., etc. And down here on the right, it shows you all of your previous runs. I don't know if there's an actual limit to them. On this save file, I only have the one run, but I have a couple other save files where I've unlocked every single character, and I have several runs in a row. I don't know if there's actually a limit. As far as I know, I haven't hit the limit, but I'm sure there's a limit. But it shows you several other runs that you can take a look at. And that is pretty nice. Now, you think this is just a Boggle-based Balatro-inspired roguelite. However, what if I told you there's a little more to this game than that? I'm going to jump on over to a second save file I have with a couple more characters unlocked. And also shows you completion percentage per save file. Now, there are a few things that you unlock once you get a couple more characters. I believe, what is it? I think it's after 3 or 4 characters, you unlock. Let me show you this. You unlock the quests menu. This is a tab that has several different challenges that you can play based on whether or not you have certain things unlocked. And when you do these challenges, they're going to give you, you know, here's beat this while not using the same word twice. Beat this while having whatever restriction. And the purpose of this is each one unlocks a new sticker or stamp for you to use, which is really cool. It's another sort of side mode that you can play to unlock more things, which is nice. Because a lot of the times, what it's going to be is you're going to be looking at the collection, you're gonna go, oh, get a green crown with Sam Gambit, which I will explain in a second. Submit a 7+ tile word using only diagonal movements. You're going to be looking at these and going, okay, so I have to do this in the middle of a run, which can be a little bit difficult to think about. Obviously, you're just going to be unlocking them randomly as you go through the game. But I do really, really, really like that there are also a couple stamps and stickers that you can just unlock by doing specific things. Or by doing specific quests and not having to try to figure something out mid-run. I think that's a really cool additional optional challenge and way to unlock things. Now, like I said, there's a little bit more to this game, and I wanted to show you once we unlocked 6 characters, because that basically unlocks every well, not every additional mechanic. There are a couple more, but these are the ones that you unlock just by beating the game several times in a row with each of these characters. The rest of these characters have special unlock conditions, and it's actually really cool because the way they do it is once you've fulfilled whatever their unlocking condition is during a run, which is like playing a certain way. It's like, oh, if you, let me think. If you have enough colored tiles on the board, then eventually what happens is you run into one of these characters as a boss, and if you beat that boss, then you unlock them as a playable character. It's really cool. One thing I'm a little bit worried about is I'm worried that if you unlock a character, then they'll never show up again as a boss. I'm not sure because I haven't run into any of these characters as a boss more than once, and I think it would be a real shame if they stopped you from fighting them again, because I think some of them have some very unique and interesting boss mechanics, and there are only, I don't know, let's say 6 or 7 bosses overall that aren't these unique characters. And I feel like I'm hoping that you can keep on encountering them as bosses. But as far as I've found, I haven't encountered them more than once. But we're going to jump into the game with one of these other characters. We're going to go with Haley Bales. Her ability is to scatter a unique number between 1 and 5, and color numbers get plus 10 tile score. I'm going to turn this off for a second, and I'll explain it later. Unique number. Now you might be saying, hold on a minute. How am I supposed to spell with a number? Well, that's very interesting because this game starts to get a little bit crazy. So something that I think is really cool about this game is when they introduce a new character and a new mechanic into the game, they sort of half explain it. They don't tell you exactly how it works. They encourage you to experiment and figure out and understand them on your own. And I think that is really, really cool because it makes you feel really smart when you figure it out. But some of them are fairly easy to deduce. So for example, how do I spell things with this number? What does that mean? Well, if you click them in a certain order, then you can go tile. I'm going to pick M. And then for my second tile, I click 2. If I click 2 as my first tile, it would say invalid word, and no matter what I do, it's going to say I can't actually do it. If I click it as my third tile, it's not going to work. So if I click it as my second tile, then it basically becomes a wild card. Most of the mechanics in this game they act as wild cards, but they have certain restrictions. So I'm going to go with this. And it's probably going to spell meat, or if I do it... Oh, no, I can't do it that way. It's probably going to spell meat if I do this. So I'm going to spell M2ET. I'm going to click submit. This guy's going to go, I don't know what that means. So we're going to say meat. So how this game special mechanics work are... The special non-letter tiles basically act as wild cards. And if they can find a word in the dictionary, they try to spell that, which is really, really cool. And it gets really crazy later into the game. Now, like I said, in the options menu, there is the ability to show dictionary words. That appears on the left here, where if you spell something using one of these wildcard tiles, then it'll show you the word that it actually spelled. Because I think if you have this off, I'm not sure if it'll activate if I started with this on. But I think if you have this off when you start a thing, let's go with this. This is going to spell lead. And it doesn't actually show the word that it's spelled underneath if you turn that option off. Now, here's where things get interesting because I've unlocked most of the special mechanics. So we're going to see a bunch of them in the shop. So we can go Joker. At the start of the grid, scatters 1 Joker card. What does that mean? So we're going to pick that. I think I'm going to restock here. Scatters 2 chess pieces. Sure, why not? I don't know. We're going to go into our next game and we're going to go, okay. So we scattered 1 number, 1 Joker card, and then 2 chess pieces. And all of these have their own unique and special mechanics that interact differently with several different stickers. These are what are called curse tiles. Curse tiles is anything that's not just a normal letter, and they also have special mechanics for stickers and stamps based on whether or not you're playing using the cursed tiles. This is the true power of cursed words. This is what this game is all about. So here we start playing a little bit differently. The chess pieces are interesting because they can only go to they can only connect to tiles that their chess piece can normally hit. They also have a special thing that happens when you take a chess piece like you would in chess. which I can't do here, but we're gonna go. This is gonna be my first one. I don't know what letter this is, but we're gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4. Ah, I wish I could. Wait, we're gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're gonna hit 5. What is this spell? I don't know. It has some letters in the middle. They're gonna try and spell something with it. I'm gonna submit it. He's gonna go dotal. I don't know. Is that a word? Here's where things got a little bit weird. So, like I said before, I feel like this game's dictionary is pretty generous. Most of the time, they try to spell real words, and a lot of them are words that you either don't know or don't expect to be in a game like this. Sometimes, when you get like a board full of entirely wild cards, they just start making up words and spelling things that completely do not exist. Like, what if you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Nope. That's probably it. Oh, wait. Okay. Q something P something S. What does that spell? Coughs? That's not a word. What does that mean? So it does get a little bit weird when you have multiple special unique wildcard mechanics. Which, I don't know. You might or you might not like it, but I think that makes this game completely different from what you'd expect it to be. It feels really good to just be able to use all these different kinds of disparate mechanics. Let me try and find another funny one. We can get. Let me try and find. Sure, whatever. Let's just get more. Let's just get more chess pieces. It feels so good when you figure out a way to align all of your wild cards to be able to spell a valid word. So what is my strategy here? So the fun thing about chess pieces is that there are black pieces and white pieces, and white pieces aren't allowed to take white pieces. So the only places this knight can go are to C or to G, which is very unfortunate because there are no black pieces here. We're gonna go we're gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Nope. 9, 10. Nope. I think that's it. So we're gonna... Here, let me turn... Where was this? Show dictionary words on. Something, S-A something, 5 something, S something. I have no idea what that spells. Tsaritsa? That's not a word. I don't think that's a real word. And we just unlocked something. Sometimes they use words from other languages, but because this game is mostly based in English, I think a lot of the words that you get from using these wildcards are just completely made up. Okay, and we can go scatters 2 unique numbers, or they get more tile score. Just give me more numbers. This game gets completely absurd once you actually get really deep into the game and unlock some of the crazier characters. I'm not even on the craziest characters so far. Like, if we go back to the menu and we start a new run, some of these characters have insane abilities. Like, what is it? This guy's ability is to just throw random tiles onto the board. This character's ability, oh my god, this character has an insane ability. I don't want to spoil some of these other ones, but they just completely revolutionize the game. You think you're done discovering new things, and you unlock a new character, and they completely revolutionize the game. It gets insane. It gets to a point where you're not even spelling with actual words. You're just clicking things until it until it makes something you can submit, and you just get a billion points. It feels so good. This game is phenomenal, and it's a lot more than I expected, because I have played another Balatro-inspired Boggle roguelite before, and it was okay. It was okay. It was pretty okay. It shared some similarities with Balatro, but I don't think they got creative enough in their implementation of how the Boggle game works. This game just says, hey, so you know how you were playing Boggle a second ago? Actually, you're not doing that. And it just gets insane. It's so mind-blowing. And I've been playing this nonstop for the past, like, several days. So I highly recommend this. Everything about this game feels really good. The game's pretty generally polished overall. The sound effects are all really nice. Everything's really satisfying to click. There's so much polish. The art style is really cute. I love all these different kinds of characters you can play as. I think my only criticism about the characters is they do all have their own unique personalities, but they only get a couple of lines and then they just stop talking completely. I wish they sort of got more dialogue and utilized them more, because I think they're interesting, but they don't really use them enough. But they are still really cute. I love the art style for all these characters. I love that they're all little Muppet creatures that, like, none of these guys are actual humans. You have, like, this guy's obviously a sock puppet creature. They're all really nice. Everything's very pleasing and satisfying. Art style is adorable. Game is addicting. It just is completely mind-blowing, the places that this game goes. I highly recommend this. Thank you so much for watching. This game is available on Steam for $13.49 or your regional equivalent. My name has been Toki.MORI. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you all next time.